Hello everyone. So I saw two new movies this weekend and I really wanted to review both, but I don't have the time to do separate videos for them. So I thought, you know what, why not just review them in one video? I saw Roofman first, so let's start with that. Roofman is directed by Derek Cianfrance and stars Channing Tatum. After escaping from prison, former soldier and professional thief Jeffrey Manchester finds a hideout inside a Toys R Us, where he has to survive while he plans his next move. Roofman is a film I was pretty intrigued by. This movie is based on a true story, and the idea of a guy robbing a McDonald's, escaping from prison, then hiding in a Toys R Us, that was a concept I was really intrigued to see how it would play out. Channing Tatum is also one of the most charismatic actors working today, and I'll start with his performance here. This doesn't just apply to Roofman, but this movie proves it further, that I believe Channing Tatum is the A-list actor who can most convincingly play the everyman. Whether it's in Magic Mike or Logan Lucky or Dog, he manages to show his characters in such a down-to-earth way, and that is a big reason why Jeffrey is such an engaging protagonist here. This is a character who, yes, does a lot of wrong and does many questionable things, but yet there's a heart to him, and Channing Tatum gets that across so effectively. I was constantly intrigued to see what choices he would make, and I totally believe he should be in the Oscar conversation this year. He's not going to be, but he deserves to be. I also think the script does such a good job at making you care about this character, who, as I said, is morally ambiguous at times. But this screenplay really got me to care about his motivations. Roofman is an incredibly funny movie. I laughed a lot watching it, but what I did not expect is this film to be the most sincere film of the year, because its heart is in the right place and Derek Cianfrance knows how to execute that in a way that's emotionally effective. I will say, Roofman is not a fast-paced movie. It absolutely takes its time telling its story and fleshing these characters out. I do think you have to be patient with it, because it does have scenes that in the moment you don't really know where they're going, but as the movie progresses you kind of realise where they're going, and that every scene in this movie has a purpose despite it having a slow pace. But ultimately I found that slow pace rewarding because I cared about the characters, so that didn't bother me at all. Overall, Roofman is one of the biggest surprises of the year and is one of my favourite films of the year. It's got heart, it's got humour, it's got complex characters. I highly recommend you all go out and support Roofman. It's a brilliant film and I really wish it was getting more love. I'm going to give Roofman an A+. Next up, Black Phone 2. Black Phone 2 is once again directed by Scott Derrickson and is the sequel to 2021's The Black Phone. 4 years after escaping the grabber, Finney Blake is struggling with his life after captivity. When his sister Gwen begins receiving calls in her dreams from the Black Phone, the siblings become determined to solve the mystery and confront a killer who has grown more powerful in death. The first Black Phone is a movie that I really enjoyed. It was scary, it was original, and it was surprisingly raw. Now I am going to spoil the end of the first Black Phone because it's impossible to talk about this movie without talking about the ending of the last movie. But in the end of that movie, the main villain, the grabber, dies. So when they announced the sequel and announced that the grabber was returning, I was admittedly trepidatious. I only saw one trailer for Black Phone 2, and honestly, it was terrible. So based off that one trailer, I didn't really have any excitement for this sequel. Mason Thames made his big splash in the first Black Phone, of course then going on to play Hiccup in the recent How to Train Your Dragon remake, and once again he's fantastic here. With everything that happened to him in the first movie, Finney is struggling, and I think Mason Thames pulls that off really well. He never does it in an over dramatic way, but he just does a really effective job of understanding his suffering. Madeline McGraw, who played his sister Gwen in the first movie, gets a much bigger role here. Black Phone 2 is more of a two-hander between the siblings, and she is also brilliant. Through her performance, you really feel that fear. I also cared about the sibling relationship. You can tell Finney and Gwen really care for each other and want the best for each other. Watching that play out was really interesting. I think Black Phone 2 is at its best when it is exploring the trauma of these characters, especially when it goes into Finney's PTSD or how Gwen's dealing with these nightmares. The film is able to portray these in ways that make you feel for these characters. Visually, I think this is a beautiful movie. Scott Derrickson, I think, directs this more confidently. There are longer takes, the use of the camera is more experimental. The use of colour is both vibrant and kind of scary as well. The first half of Black Phone 2, where it is dealing with those things I was talking about, is pretty good. I was intrigued by these characters, I wanted to see what direction they'd go in. However, the film goes downhill once the grabber shows up. I'm not going to give any spoilers for what they do with him, but it makes a lot of creative decisions revolving around his character and characters around him that just didn't work for me. They either lacked the emotion or just didn't feel like they fit well into this world. So I was honestly very frustrated watching the second half of Black Phone 2. Alongside that, the film just doesn't have a compelling enough reason to bring him back, beyond the fact that he wants revenge. I was hoping they'd come up with a more original way to bring the character back. Also, there is a love interest character who is interested in Gwen. He's in a lot of this movie, and I didn't necessarily find his presence annoying, but he doesn't really do anything. However, I will say the final 5 to 10 minutes are pretty entertaining. They have some cool moments, and there is a nice emotional payoff. Overall, Black Phone 2 definitely has its highs. It has a really strong start, but ultimately, it just ends up feeling inferior to the first one. I'm going to give Black Phone 2 a B-. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. You guys are awesome. Blu-ray Billy, logging off.